Okay, so I went ahead and cleaned up the area as much as I kind of could for now. The belt's still in there. So just to kind of recap, so far, whenever you turn, this one's here, I know earlier I mentioned put them at 20 or at 12 o'clock. There's the little dot here and the little line. On the instructions, it tells you to put them about 11. So you put them a little bit before top. And then you come down here. And here on the side of the block, where you take the plug off. Right in here. And you put that pin that's going to hold it in there. And you turn the crank. So once you put that pin, you turn it, and the crank is gonna go and hit that pin, and it's gonna stop. Once it stops, it actually puts it right at 12 o'clock here on top. So if you put it at 12 o'clock here on top, you're probably not gonna be able to put that pin in, or it's not gonna really give you a good amount of wiggle room to put it in there. So put them right before 12 o'clock. Put the pin in there and then turn it till it stops. You can tell when it's hitting, and then it's gonna be 12 o'clock. So at this point, it tells you to loosen the pulley there at the bottom. There is a crankshaft holding tool, but you know, it's a Ford part number. I couldn't really find anything on that one. So I went ahead and went to Home Depot and bought this kind of like a strap wrench. I'm gonna put it around the pulley here. It's gonna go this way. No, actually this way here. And I'm gonna hold it, and I'll put the camera down here in a moment, but I'm gonna hold it, you know, kind of, well, not pushing it, but just kind of hold it. And then I'm gonna get my impact. Gotta make sure, you know, the compressor's fully filled and everything, and sap this bolt out. It shouldn't be too hard, hopefully, and you just don't want it to move counterclockwise, because then it's going to be out of time. Once this bolt is off, hopefully this pulley just comes right out. If not, I may have to get like a jaw puller to get it out, but I'm hoping it just comes out, and then we'll remove the rest of the stuff there. So let me get my light to put it down here, and I'll get ready with this strap wrench, get my impact ready, and we'll get going. Okay, so let's see if I can get this to come out. Hopefully not too hard, so we'll see. Let's see what happens here. And this strap wrench, like I said, I think it was like $12, $13, so not too expensive. I just don't know how well it will work, but that's all we got to work with. So let's see what happens. And that's on there. Oof. Let's turn the air pressure up. I may have to get a big cheater bar if this doesn't work, so we'll see. Whew. Alright, knocked you guys out, but looks like we got it. So there's your bolt, it's just tight. And that pulley looks like it's not gonna come right out, so it's probably been in there for all 160,000 miles, so didn't really expect it to. Well, I was hoping it would just come out, but okay. Let me see if I can get a 2-jaw puller, get it in here, push against the centerpiece, and take it out, but that is what the bolt looks like there. Okay, got my 2-jaw puller, just because there's not too much room for the 3rd jaw here. And so I'm just gonna start tying this. Hopefully, it looks like that pulley is coming right out, so. Nice and simple. I think you might be able to use a hammer and just tap it, but you know, you don't want to damage the lip here on your pulley, so go rent yourself one of these 3-jaw puller, 2 or 3-jaw puller. You can get this at like AutoZone and O'Reilly's, probably for. And mine is mushroomed out here, so I just put a socket that fits right in there. But there's our pulley here, so I'll clean this up a little bit, all this red stuff. And I just marked it where it was. I think there's certain years of Fiesta that have a crankshaft sensor here. And there's a tool in that kit that on those years, the pulley has like a little hole, and it makes it so you can actually line it up for the sensor. This one's not gonna matter where it is or where it was, but I'm gonna try to put it right in the same spot anyway, so that's why I marked it. So that's out. I'm just gonna take the 8mm bolt off there. This is just this bottom part of the cover. And I'll clean this off a little bit as well. The top one on this year just has this little dots that go right in the holes. Certain years, I think there's bolts on top, so keep that in mind. So at this point, this gear should be loose. Now, obviously, it's tied up to the cams with the belt on top, so it's not gonna spin until we loosen that tensioner. So, at this point, I believe on the instructions, tells us to put that. It says here, remove the 3 bolts attaching the lower timing cover, install the VCT alignment tool. That's going to be this one up here. And let me grab this and then get installed. Okay, so I went ahead and put this tool in here. Now, keep in mind that this spacer sticks out more than this one. For whatever reason, it's made different. So obviously it's going to go on that side first, and then it goes on this one after. And it's not gonna go all the way in on this one because, well, you know, this one's all the way in kinda, and this one lines up there, but it slid right in. I didn't really have to turn anything, so I think at this point I'm gonna set you all down right here. Hopefully camera doesn't fall. I'm gonna push the tensioner up. See if I can do that. I have an extra pin that I have no idea where it came from, but I do have it. So, and a lot of people say you can just, oh yeah, actually by hand I can push it up. So I may come from the bottom here. Let me see if I have better room from the bottom. Don't get old, you start grunting for everything. Alright, I'm gonna use this socket to push it, to help me push it, and then put this little pin in there. So right now the belt kind of is off, and what I'm gonna do is also have my marker, and this is nowhere in the instructions or anything, but I'm just gonna mark kind of where this belt is, just so I can kind of keep track of it. You don't have to do this, but that's something I want to do. And I'm just gonna mark here on top where the little dot is, where in the belt it is. Like I said, this is not instructions. You don't have to do that. I just wanted to do that. So I think a 12mm is what's gonna take this screw off. Nope, it's gonna be 13, isn't it? Oh, where's my 13? So right up here. And at this point you can take your belt off. It should be loose from the tensioner. You can actually, you know, take it off, but well, actually let's do that. And now that the tensioner, once you get the tensioner loose, then the bottom gear does turn, because, well, nothing really holds it other than that bolt and the crankshaft pulley. So I'll probably take it off and just clean it a little bit, but I'm gonna take this tensioner and just keep track. This little thing I'm pointing at right here is gonna go in a little square that's right in front of that hole where it goes into, and then actually this bolts through the water pump, so just so you're aware of that. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this bolt does not look like a factory bolt, so I wonder if at some point they did the timing belt service, maybe even at the dealer. I'm not sure. You know, I never seen a factory bolt that's just looks like this, where it's just kind of flat, but maybe, I don't know. It has some weird numbers on it. So it, I mean, I guess I can't say, but from here, the next step is to take the water pump bolt. So you got 8mm bolts all around there. Let's see here. Another thing I wanted to check is this pulley. I mean, nothing looks wrong with it actually when I turn it, so I don't know where. I don't know where all that dust came from. This belt looks decent, but I'm not sure. Maybe under. I don't know. We'll see. Regardless, you know, this something you have to service on this vehicle, so vehicle is driving just fine. So I mean, I didn't think anything was wrong, but when I saw all that dust and everything, I figured, man, maybe that was about to break, but I don't know. Maybe it just kind of started. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of time with something making that kind of dust is probably not gonna last too long, so. Alright, and I'm gonna look at my old, my new water pump and see if there's another bolt down there, but I can look from the bottom too. Just make sure you take all those bolts off, keep track of the bolts. Some water pumps come with new bolts. Mine didn't, so. And then you might get some coolant that's gonna leak out of here. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna move my drain pan to right in front here, so if I do get some water leaking there or coming out, and then I'm just gonna put that hose that I taken off earlier because no water's coming out of there. So I'm just gonna put that one back and put my pan down here, just because I do see some water dripping already. So let me do that, and then I'll take that water pump off. So here's the water pump. I did want to keep the bolts in there just to see, but it looks like they're all the same length. This water pump does have a little alignment kind of dowel there. I'll check the new one. And these are all the bolts that it has. So this one you can't really see, but it's at the bottom. You can see the rest. And then this is where the tensioner for the timing actually threads into, and actually threads right into the water pump. So, but as you can see, this thing had been leaking a little bit right in there. There's a weep hole, looks like, or maybe right at the front pulley. Let's see here. Other than that, this one seems kind of dry actually. It doesn't turn smoothly. Like if I'm turning it, I don't know if you can notice my hand, but it's kind of jumping around. And so that could have been that it was this pulley that was creating that dust, although this is on the outside, so I don't think so. But like I'm turning it, you know, it's turning freely, but I could tell where it's kind of skipping. So that bearing in there is worn out. So I guess good thing we're doing this. And a bunch of water came out from here, so I guess if you do end up draining it like I did with the hose, you're still gonna have a bunch of water, so make sure your drain pan is right under here. I put some cardboard just so it would all fall in there. But that's good. I got some new coolant, so I'm gonna let that finish dripping. I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner around everything, clean off everything, and then I'll start putting everything back together really at this point. Water pump first and everything else to follow. So This is my new water pump. I showed at the beginning. This is a Gates. And it does have that dowel in there. So looks like the right one. I will say, if you're doing this job, a couple different things. So try to get a Motorcraft one if you can. A Gates is a good brand. The gasket is the same type, so it's a metal gasket which matches the Ford one exactly. The other thing, actually, there's two pins, two dowels, and I just looked at the factory one. It does have the same two dowels, but the gasket is kind of like a metal gasket, so it's not like a paper one. A lot of the less expensive water pumps will have like a paper gasket. They come with this piece of cardboard to protect the little propeller, but see, when I turn this one, it turns. I mean, it's not hard. The other one is not hard, but you can kind of tell where it's almost like catching. And there is like a little hole right in here, and that's where the other one was sweeping a little bit from. So, but anyways, I'm not gonna film this next part, but I'm just gonna clean everything and get ready to install this. Once I'm ready to install it, I'll show you guys the other process of putting it back together. Okay, so I got everything pretty much cleaned there, so I'm gonna go ahead and start installing this water pump. I got the gasket on the back, and since this is a metal gasket, there's no need for, like RTV silicone or anything like that. We'll just have to make sure that you line it up and everything is pretty much nice and clean. And like I mentioned, it did have those two dowels, so kind of keeps everything lined up. So looks like this bolts had some thread sealant, so I'm just gonna grab some thread sealant and put some in there. Did not seem to me like these bolts went into any sort of water, but I see a little bit of that white goop in there, which is kind of indicator of thread sealant. So I'm just gonna put a little bit in there now that I'm putting them back in. So I'm gonna take those two that I put in there first, once I tighten this one, and put some in there as well. And from what I can tell, the torque on these bolts is about 18 foot-pounds, so not too much. And I did find a bolt on the alternator on the bottom that I can use, so I'm gonna make sure to put him back in there. Or I shouldn't say back in there, but make sure to put a bolt in there, since it didn't have one, whoever worked on it previously. As far as I know, this was a one-owner little car. The girl that had it took it to the dealer for all her repairs, so, which makes sense. Pretty much all the parts on this car, that I seen are OE Motorcraft. So you know, either like the alternator, it was replaced at some point, and obviously if it's at the dealer, they're gonna put a Ford Motorcraft in it. I would have really thought that they would have put all the bolts back in there, but shop at the dealer is only as good as that mechanic who's working at that bay at that time. So I guess just because you go to the dealer doesn't mean it's gonna be perfect. And who knows, it could have been someone else, or I have no idea. Maybe that's how these cars are. They don't put that lower bolt factory from Ford to save on a bolt. Who knows? Maybe only the turbo models take that bolt, you know, 'cause they have more horsepower. And I'm just getting these snug here. All right, so it's 18 foot-pounds. I don't know, 18 times 12, 216 inch-pounds, because I don't have a torque wrench that's in foot-pounds that goes that low, so I'll have to use my inch-pounds one. So 216, that's, I should really invest in one of those, but we'll use this one, see what that feels like. If it doesn't feel right, I might just do it by hand. Don't want to break any of these bolts. I mean, they're aluminum. Seems pretty tight. Just gonna go by hand feel. I think it's about time that I get a new torque wrench too. See, that one's Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna tensioner, which doesn't show. Also doesn't show how tight, but that's gonna go in this hole here. Actually gonna double check. Okay. Just want to make sure that shoulder on this bolt doesn't go all the way through, 'cause and when I cleaned that pulley at the bottom, I sprayed brake cleaner and it deleted or erased the mark that I made with the belt. So I guess it really doesn't matter all the marks I made. I was going to transfer the marks into the new belt, but apparently doesn't matter. And quite honestly, this tensioner feels almost the same as the other one. I don't know. I don't know honestly if that other one was damaged or why there was so much of that red dust in here. That's just weird. Like I said, yeah, the pump seemed like it was, you know, a little bit damaged, but the bearing and the pulley to the pump is on the outside of the cover and everything. So I don't know, unless with the tension of the belt, it just made it so that that bearing was making noise and getting damaged. I don't know. Okay, so now to install the belt, it does say to go around that bottom pulley first. Which I got there. And I'm gonna stick my hand through here, so it's gonna be hard to see, but really what you have to do is so you're supposed to put it around that, around the top, and then go around the tensioner here. Let's see, remove the timing belt tensioner holding tool installed and the sequence shows. So again, the sequence is going from the bottom all the way around the bottom, which it is. You go around this side, this other pulley, and then around the tensioner. Remove the timing belt tensioner holding tool. So this point, we'll remove this little pin. Okay. Install the lower timing cover and the 3 bolts tied to 80-inch pounds. So that was very light. I'm not even going to use my big old torque wrench because I remember this cover was just very light in there. Grabbing another rag here just to clean all around down here. Lining up those 2 dowels on top, and then the bolt just goes on the bottom. Same as when I removed it, and I'm just gonna like feel tighten this bolt here at the bottom. I mean, it just holds that plastic cover. Okay. Install the crankshaft pulley and new bolt. This is where it gets tricky. It does say install a new bolt. I did try to purchase a new bolt, see if like the parts store has them. They don't sell just the bolt. I know I mentioned earlier you can get a kit for the newer cars. That kit is for the turbo cars. And I'm not 100% if everything else fits the same way, but that is the only kit, as far as I could see or tell, that comes with the new bolt. So I don't know. I guess I'm working out here, so let me just bring it back down here. So I don't know. I didn't try the Ford dealer, see if they can get a new bolt, but none of the parts stores or anything have the bolts separately. So I'm just gonna do it this way. So Let's put this pulley back, and again I have no idea where the mark went, because as I told you all, and you know what, I could probably use this strap tool, maybe. Well, actually, I honestly don't think this crankshaft turned at all. I mean, this would be just spinning. So it says to torque that bolt to 74 foot-pounds. So I'm not gonna use my impact. I've seen quite a few videos online where people just use the impact to tighten it, but let's try to do things the way it says. Okay, 74 foot-pounds. Where's my bolt? Now for this step, it is, you know, it says you're leaving that pin there on the side of the block, and you're leaving the cam tools on top on the camshaft. So we're not taking none of this stuff off for the 74 foot-pounds. After this, we have to tighten a little bit more, and that's when we do have to take some of those things off. And that is not too tight, but okay. And now it says to remove the top of the center pin, which is this pin here. Let's see if, oh yeah, you can take it out by your hand. It looks, I think the crank just kind of laid against it right there, whatever. Okay, and then it says to take the VCT alignment tool off. So this tool up here should be able to come up, which came out pretty easy. And then now it says tighten the crankshaft bolt in the following 3 stages. So using the strap wrench, tying an additional 90 degrees. And that's where it's gonna get a little bit hard here, but let's see what we can do. So obviously, you know, this is, let's just, well, I'm gonna use probably well, I'm gonna have to just use like even this ratchet, but this is 0, so this is 180. $90 degrees would be a quarter turn, so we're gonna tighten it a quarter of a turn. So we just need this mark to come here to the bottom. Okay. Let's see if we're able to do that. I think I have I do have a, what do you call this? Thingamajig, right? That breaker bar and little cheater tube here. So let's see, hopefully we can. Honestly, I don't see why we can't leave that pin in there, but maybe because if you leave that pin, you're risking breaking it inside, and then, you know, at that point you have to take the whole darn oil pan and all that junk off. So I'm gonna pull that, push this. Well, actually, let me redo this. Let's not mark the pulley because the pulley should stay stationary, right? So let's just say this bolt here, and we want it to be pointing, so it's pointing right here. We want it to be pointing down here. There we go. That's a quarter turn. From right here to right there. Not the pulley, because obviously we're gonna hold on to the pulley. Hopefully we can get this to turn. Come on. Oh, man. This is a pain on the hoo. Okay, we're about halfway there. Almost. Gonna turn this a little bit so I can put the ratchet way up here. Gives me better leverage to start up high. If I can reach that other strap wrench. No. Holy moly. Don't look like we're getting anywhere, damn it. Maybe if we let that tool just Holy moly. I don't know how you're supposed to turn that 90 degrees. Holy crap. Maybe we need a better hold down tool, but that's all freaking I have. Okay, we're almost there. Just slightly more. I would say this is probably the hardest part of doing this job because, man, that's like a really, really tight hold. Just slightly more. Okay, I think that's 90 degrees. Says wait 10 seconds, which I've been waiting more than 10 seconds in between, so what does it matter at this point? Turn an initial 15 degrees, but let's see if we can, man, just turn it a little bit more. Whew, holy shoot. Supposed to be another 15 degrees, but if you can get a better hold down tool, strap tool, be my guest, because I don't know if this one's just slipping a little bit. Okay, I turned it a little bit there, so that should be what it is. Okay, so it's just to rotate the crankshaft almost 2 turns, which let's go ahead and do that. I don't know where my other ratchet is. Oh, it's right here. Okay, I'm gonna rotate it more. Pretty much we want to bring the timing marks back to the 11 o'clock position on top. And once we do that, slightly more technically, get that pin, up the center pin, which is this one here. We're gonna put it back on. You should be able to just tighten it by hand. And then turn this until it hits. There it is. And those should be rotate crankshaft till it stops. Install the VCT alignment tool. And this is where we're gonna know if we did it right or we screwed up. Oh man, I'm glad that freaking worked because that was a pain in the butt. So that's all aligned. It's on the pin. This slid right in there. Okay. If the special tool cannot be installed, repeat the adjustment according to the preceding steps. Remove the pin, install the engine plug bolt. Using a floor jack and block of wood, support the engine, remove the engine support bar, remove the bolt and engine lift bracket, install the engine mount bracket and 3 bolts. If the special tool cannot be installed, repeat the adjustment according to the, okay. So don't do that if if you can't install it. Other than that, then we can remove the VCT tool, which is right here on top, remove the pin on the bottom, put the plug, and it's 177 inch-pounds. Support the engine, remove the bolt and the engine lifting bracket, install the engine mount, timing belt cover. So pretty much we reverse the process here. So, oh man, so cool. We can go ahead and move forward. I will say though that was a pain on the butt. But it's good now, so gonna remove this. Remove this little top dead center bolt. I'm gonna go get my cover that goes right in there and then put it back in, and we'll start putting all those brackets and everything back together. This pin does have like a little gasket in it, so make sure you don't damage it or anything, but you should be able to just put it back in there. And it had a 10 millimeter. I'm using a wrench because you really can't get a socket in there with the CV axle. Just gonna make sure that's tight. Is this 177 inch-pounds? Absolutely not. But it's pretty tight. So there it is. For a second there, I was like, man, did I put that bottom cover on the engine? All right, I'm gonna lift the engine. Just because, okay, now I think I'm gonna drop the alternator in here and then put this bracket in here and start putting everything back. And again, I removed the alternator because I felt like it was way easier to take it out. I have more room in here. You could probably leave it in there. I mean, instructions don't say to remove it. So, but as you could see, by me removing it, there was a lot more room to work on everything. So, let's plug that in. put the bolt for the power cable. Put that nut in there. And I believe that was a 13. And make sure your battery is disconnected, because you would be making a lot of sparks if it wasn't. And I did look a new radiator for this car, because at the beginning we found out it was leaking a little bit. It is about 200 at the parts store. If I order it from Rock Auto, it's about 100. So I'm probably just gonna do that. And then once it comes in, I'll get that replaced since it's leaking. So we're just gonna kind of leave that there. This is that bracket, so we have the 2 bolts that go right in there, and then we have the 2 bolts here on top, and there's one at the bottom there. So this one goes down here. And then we have the 2 that went down here. And if any of these steps are not exactly how they were when we got started, I do apologize. I'm trying to remember exactly what we did, but sometimes you forget. This bolt we had to use a wrench. Because with the alternator there, it was hard to get a ratchet and socket in there, and it was hard to get that alternator straight out. Although I guess we can take it right out the top here. I thought we couldn't get it out, but maybe I was just trying to do it the wrong way. Okay, and now we can put the alternator in here. I believe this bolt went here because it goes all the way through. And this one goes here because it just threads into this bracket that we just installed. And before I tighten that all the way down, this is that bolt that I found. That is the same, well, it's the right length, or somewhat the right length, same thread. Gonna put it down here where it's supposed to go. I can see when it's where it's easy to forget, it's down there where you can't see it. So once you put these two top ones, I mean, it should tighten up the alternator where, you know, you're like, well, it's tight. And just the way it is, I'm just gonna tighten this bottom one first, because that one's just gonna bottom out that way. Then I'll tighten up this one. Okay. Let's see. Backtracking. I think timing cover is going to be next. I do need to clean this, so I'm gonna turn the camera off for a little bit, just clean all this red stuff, dirt, whatever it is, off the cover on the back, and then we'll get back and install that and the water pump pulley and keep on going. So now I'm gonna try to put this timing cover, now that I cleaned it. Everything's still looking pretty good. Now at this point, technically we could probably put the battery and start the engine, but honestly it's not like we can really do anything about the timing. And we did the process of, you know, checking with the pin on the bottom, sliding the tool afterwards, so it should be good to go. If you notice, you know, once you start the engine, you run it a little bit, you get a check engine and you have a timing code, then I would say at that point stop, get everything torn apart, and then see what happened. Maybe, you know, just didn't put it right or whatever. But I think if you know, follow those guides, if you have the tool, everything goes back in, you should be good to go as far as what I think. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get going. I know when I put this or took this out, it was a pain in the butt because there was like no room. So we're gonna try to slide this back in here somehow. I think the first thing to do is gonna be put the engine up. See if we have one maybe this way. I know before we just didn't get around everything, but let's see. Only bad part is this bottom thing has to go behind the pulley, so That's where it makes it hard. There we go. I was able to just kind of make it go around. This crank pulley at the bottom. Let's see, what are we? Seems like we're hitting something. Maybe that's it. I think that's it. The only thing that I don't know is back here. No, I think it's good. Let's see. I believe this bolt here was the wrong one. And then we had, so this was the long one up here. We had this, that was a stud that was back here. I think right in here. This one up here. One down here. Okay, that's getting sidetracked here. You know what? Oh, shit. Let me take a look here, because it just feels like that harmonic balancer is not straight, and I'm not sure if it's just balancer itself. I'm gonna have to check that here in a little bit, but give me 1 second. Okay, so let's continue to put this cover back on. I think it was just the angle. I was looking at that harmonic balancer, but it just looked kind of weird, and so I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. Putting the bolts down here, and you can get to these through the top, but since I have the cover down here taken off, just gonna put these on right here. And then last but not least, there's one right under here. I'm going to get a deep 8mm socket so I can get the one back here, because it has the stud sticking out. Okay. All right, so at this point, get a water pump pulley. installed. And we just gonna lift up the engine. Now these are 10 millimeters, so we did a little 10 millimeter socket. Which I think I should have right here. Actually, are they 10? Yep. Now with these, I guess technically you can put a screwdriver like this and get them pretty tight. And then once we put the belt on, we can also give them another little snug. These weren't really like so tight. So. Okay. At this point, we're ready to put the new belt back on. Now, if you're gonna put a new belt, this would be a great time to just get your new belt in there. I'm gonna reuse mine. And hopefully here it should be not too hard to get this on there. Spoke too soon. Came off the alternator, so So on that belt, just get around the crank, turn it, and then you want it to come off of the alternator here, but just guide it back in there, should be good. All right, plug for the alternator, power bolt. And so it looks like at this point, I'm gonna motor mount on here. So 3 bolts for the same size. And then the 2 with the stud went to the engine up here. So let's see, this goes down here. Okay, now these don't have to be super tight, but decently tight, I guess. Now I'm gonna lift up the engine and tighten this once. And at this point, we can remove the jack. Everything seems to be good up here. We're going to install the coolant reservoir. I'm going to redo the hose down here. I actually didn't put it back earlier that I moved the drain pan, so I'm going to put this hose back on. That's pretty much everything down here, other than I'm just gonna spray a little bit of brake cleaner here, a little bit over there where the coolant dropped. This one's pretty straightforward. We're just gonna put the clamp back on. I think I'm gonna have to get a screwdriver to pop that back on. And then we'll just put the reservoir on. Okay. And then reservoir, which if y'all can remember, it was a little bit of a pain in the butt because we had to force it around this AC line here. So just remember, we're gonna have to do that once you get it in there. That's it. Clip the hose down here, and then let's see, this one went around this way. Clip it over here. Now we're ready to fill the coolant and pretty much start up the engine. I'm not going to show filling the coolant. I mean, pretty much just fill it, make sure it's good, I do have one of those funnels, but this is pretty high to get any air out, so you know, we're gonna have to let it run and warm up, circulate, check the level. But I'm not gonna show that just because I'm gonna have to do that radiator that's leaking, and when I do that, then I'll show the whole process of draining the coolant again, filling it up, making sure it's full and everything like that. So let me get this done and then we'll get it started. Okay, so we got coolant in the reservoir. I did put the piece down here. If you remember when we took it off, there's 2 screws. And so I hooked up the battery just now. Let's, I have my keys on me. Yes, I do. Let's see. If it starts up, everything's gonna be reset because I unhooked the battery, so. All right. Whew. Did start, sounds okay. Looks like it's idling just fine. Engine sounds okay, normal. Like I said, it was making a little bit like a kind of like a squeaky noise sometimes. I really won't know till I drive it a little bit and it's warm up. So if it comes back, then it's something else. If it doesn't, then that's probably, it was gonna be that tensioner back. Seems like it's running good. I'm gonna just keep an eye on the coolant, let it warm up, and check the coolant, make sure the thermostat opens and everything. Put the tire back on and go take it for a drive. But it is idling smoothly, so I think it's good. That's pretty much how you replace the timing belt on a Ford Fiesta. It is lengthy process. I would say at least a whole day, but not too bad if you take your time. Order the tool from Amazon right here. It's worth the $35, and order the kit to get it done. So any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.